Today, we're going to look at 10 guitarists who I think are underappreciated in the alt indie kind of space. In this list, there's going to be some players who are known in the alt indie world, but not appreciated by guitarists as a whole. And then there's going to be others who are only really appreciated for the band that they play in and not themselves as guitarists, or for their other talents like songwriting and stuff. And I'd say that that is our first guitarist to a T. I think that Graham Coxon's inventive and experimental guitar sound, along with Damon's kind of weird vocal sound, is what sets Blur apart from all the other like Britpop bands at the time. Now everyone knows Song 2 and what a great guitar riff that is, but I think really where it came to light what an amazing guitarist Graham Coxon is was on the album 13. I think they really pushed the boundaries on this album and kind of experimented with sounds and stuff and thought maybe less about individual singles. I think what Coxon did on this album really encapsulates what I personally love about guitar playing. I am by no means the most technical guitarist out there, but through years of trying and failing, I now kind of know how to get the sound that I'm hearing out into the speakers. And I think that's exactly what Graham Coxon was doing. Now, I'm not saying I'm on anywhere near the same level as him. He obviously has spent so much more time messing about with guitars, and I think it really shows on this album. Like, he is a master of finding sounds that I wouldn't even be able to dream of. A couple of songs on this album where I think it becomes really obvious that that's what he's doing is particularly in Bugman. The really wide distorted sounds that start that song, I think it's possibly like a bit crusher or something. And secondly, in the Coffee and TV solo, Graham Coxon actually went on That Pedal Show and talked about this, and if you go and watch it, he basically shows what he did for that solo. He's not really actually playing the notes at all. He's kind of using his guitar and using the feedbacks to make the sounds and change the melody. I just think that's so cool. Okay, but that now brings us on to my second underrated alt indie guitarist, and that is going to be ELLIOT Smith. I mean, ELLIOT Smith's really kind of known for his like introspective songwriting and like vocal sound and the way that it's all produced and stuff, rather than his guitar playing. But I think if you actually listen to those albums, some of the like finger picking on the acoustics is just so incredible. One thing that I'm a bit embarrassed about is I hadn't really explored ELLIOT Smith's electric stuff. I'd never really even listened to the album Figure 8 until I put out this post to you guys on YouTube. And that album is really awesome. I think I'd heard it like years before, but never really deep dived it. And in particular, the guitar work on Son of Sam. It has this like real Americana vibe that, again, like what I was saying with Blur, could come across as like cheesy, but somehow the feel that he put into it just made it really cool. At like 1 minute 42, it just explodes into this like solo and just kind of oozes feeling. I think ELLIOT Smith's a good example of someone that's known in the indie alt space, but not known for their guitar playing, and then wider than that, probably people don't know him at all. There's definitely some amazing ideas in his playing that you can borrow from. But okay, let's move on to our third underrated guitarist in this space. I don't know how this one's going to go down, because I'm going to say Jack White. And now I know a lot of you are probably going to say he's not underrated, like White Stripes are one of the biggest bands ever, and Seven Nation Army, along with Smoke on the Water, is probably one of the first songs that everyone learns when they first start playing guitar. But I think he manages to do something that is really hard to do. He's essentially playing blues riffs a lot of the time, but he somehow manages to make them sound cool and alternative and not just like it's rehashing Led Zeppelin. Like in the song Ball and Biscuit, that's essentially a blues song, but something about the way he plays, like the feel he gives it, just makes it sound cool and modern, even though it actually isn't modern now because it was years ago. Okay, so let's move on to number 4. Now this guitarist is probably the reason that I'm sitting here making these YouTube videos and why I got like completely absorbed by guitar sounds and stuff in the first place. And now I know that he's obviously not necessarily underrated in this space. I mean, he's got his own guitar and his own reissue of the Big Muff pedal, which I have, by the way. But I think Billy Corgan's approach to the guitar, alongside Nirvana I guess, kind of helped reshape alternative rock. I first saw the Smashing Pumpkins in 2013 at Glastonbury, and I remember I was into the band at the time, but I wasn't like an absolute mega fan, and I stood somewhere near the sound desk because it was so busy, and oh my, it just sounded so amazing. Like, his guitar work was incredible. And I think what makes his guitar playing so awesome is the juxtaposition between like really intricate melodic sounds like at the beginning of Mayonnaise and stuff, and then it can just go full throttle like some of the songs on Machina. And actually I think the guy's like a ridiculously technical guitarist as well. There's a video on YouTube of him playing like when he's like 17 or something, and he's like shredding. But when he plays solos and stuff in songs, he's not overdoing it, and that's kind of about as virtuoso as I like to go with my music. It sounds like you could almost sing the notes, and I'd say to some extent this is how I feel about my next guitarist on this list, number 5, and that is going to be J Mascis from Dinosaur Jr. And I think obviously J Mascis has left such a huge mark on the alternative rock genre, but I don't know if he's appreciated in wider circles for the guitarist that he really is. Again, I think his playing style is like instantly recognisable. You have the more kind of crunchy melodic stuff, and then you've got like crazy solos, and then combined with like wall of sound distortion. Bit like Jack White, what he's playing could end up sounding super cheesy, but his ability to blend punk and alternative rock with classic rock is what keeps it so cool. I mean, the song Feel the Pain has some of the coolest guitar sounds ever. But anyway, that is why I think J Mascis deserves to be on this list. The guy's incredible. Moving on now to someone who I don't think gets enough recognition in general, let alone her guitar playing, is St. Vincent. Her real name is Anne Erin Clark, and she is an unreal guitarist. A bit like Graham Coxon, like, she's just pushing boundaries on sounds and like arrangements in songs and stuff, and the guitar playing just kind of encapsulates that and just sounds ridiculously good. I think the theme between all of these guitarists is that when they are virtuoso in their playing, it's really serving the song, and that's what I love so much about this kind of guitar playing and what I kind of strive to do as well. Now maybe you could say it's because I'm not good enough at the other stuff. But anyway, that's why I think she's so brilliant. There's some awesome buzzy sounds on the song The Strangers, a little bit like what I said with Blur, those kind of bit crushery sounds, but they just sound really amazing. But anyway, it's time we moved on to number 7. And this is probably someone more well known, and again more in the indie space, but I'm going to go with Johnny Marr. Again, probably Morrissey and his lyrics and stuff are what the Smiths are most famous for, but I think Johnny Marr's guitar playing is just ridiculous. I mean, those guitar sounds on How Soon Is Now, like when that weird guitar comes in and goes, I don't even know how they got that. I need to look it up because I'm always trying to find sounds like that in songs, and I spend hours just sitting there and messing about with stuff. Again, he's serving the song. He's not sort of saying like, look at me as a guitar player. He's just fitting amazing melodies around the song that just make it way better than it would be if they weren't there. Now I know again, he has his own Johnny Marr signature Jaguar, but I still think he's underrated, and I think it's probably just because he doesn't rip huge solos and stuff. Now we're going to change the dynamic a little bit, and I only recently in the last few months or so discovered this band, and it's probably because it's not really the sort of music I'd normally listen to. The guitar player is Brady EBERT of the band Turnstile. Now unfortunately he's now left the band, but their album Glow On is like an absolute masterpiece. It's blending like hardcore punk with alternative and with hip hop and stuff, and I think honestly it's one of the best albums of the last few years. And I think the way that Brady EBERT combined like hardcore sounds, like, you know, that really like distorted, almost EVH amp sounds. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I just know that sound in my head when I hear it. But he manages to combine that with like more alternative stuff. Like he was using choruses and stuff that just took it out of that hardcore sound and made it more alternative and indie, and I think it's just so cool. Also, their live shows are absolutely ridiculous and they sound incredible live too. But okay, we're getting towards the end of this now. And number 9 is gonna be Ed O'Brien. Now Radiohead might be my favourite band of all time, I don't know, it changes weekly. Johnny Greenwood is definitely one of my favourite guitarists of all time. But I think within Radiohead, Ed O'Brien possibly gets the most overlooked. And what I love about his guitar playing so much is that you almost don't notice it's there until, if you took it away, the song would sound way worse. His textural work is like second to none. You can hear it amazingly on songs like Reckoner and also No Surprises. And probably the thing that converted me into like a Radiohead mega fan was watching them from the basement session of In Rainbows. I think that was probably the first Radiohead album that I got like dangerously into, and then went back and listened to all the other ones after that. But if you just go and watch that session, you can see the stuff that he's doing that you probably don't notice, like I said, until it's gone. And you can just see all these weird little textures that he adds. It's really, really remarkable. But that brings us up to our 10th and final underrated guitarist. And it's gonna be Kurt Cobain, the voice of a generation with guitar. And I know that there's plenty of other YouTubers who have like broken down his sounds and stuff, and he's definitely well known in this kind of space. But I think it would have done a disservice to Kurt to not add him to this list, because I think his raw emotion in his guitar playing has influenced so many guitarists, including myself. And I know at times the things he's playing aren't necessarily that hard, or he makes mistakes, but actually some of those mistakes really add to the music. And I think that's something that's so important about playing in this genre, that mistakes don't necessarily matter. I mean, that's not saying that you can just go and play lousy guitar, but sometimes little mistakes add to those performances. But at the same time, I don't think Kurt Cobain gets enough credit for how good he was at guitar. In stuff like All Apologies and even Come As You Are, like the way that those melodies were written, it's just ridiculously good. And again, like Billy Corgan, with his solos in Teen Spirit, he's not playing for the sake of playing. He's singing you a melody on the guitar, which is what I think lead guitar should be all about. I mean, Nirvana's essentially pop songs packaged in a cool way, and I think part of that is from Kurt's guitar playing. And that's why I think he deserves to close this list. Okay, so there you have it. In my opinion, those are 10 of the most underrated guitarists in the indie alt space. I probably could have added 20 or 30 more. Drop me a comment if you agree with me or you don't, and let me know who you would have put in this list. And then watch this video next. And until next time, keep making noises.